Welcome to 5 and 5, and today I'm reviewing The Mandalorian Adventures, a cooperative game of Star Wars action. And disclaimer that I received an early review copy of this one. In The Mandalorian Adventures, 1 to 4 players control the characters from the first season of the TV show. You play across maps in a map book like this, trying to defeat enemies, uncover hidden tokens, and fulfill whatever the objective is for your current mission. You perform these actions by playing cards from your character's unique deck, many of them with special abilities. But when you play too many cards on a given action type, that will trigger an event and enemies activating, shooting at you, other special effects. So let's discuss 5 key things to know about The Mandalorian Adventures. So first, my number 5 is the unlockable nature of the game, and this is a mix for my taste. So I'm not going to spoil anything specific, but the game has this guide deck that will have you slowly unlocking new cards each time you play. And then additionally, at a few key points, you get to open Envelope 1 and Envelope 2, which will give you much more far-reaching things and more variety in the game that I'll talk about generally in the rest of the review. On the positive side, I'll say that unlocking things after each play is pretty fun. It does make the game very accessible at first. You can just kind of sit down and play, and it'll get more and more complex as you go. And also, again, speaking generally without spoilers, the things that you unlock are very modular, so even if you want to play a simpler or more challenging game later on, they give you options to do that. But on the negative side, at least from a gamer point of view, really just unlocking almost everything still makes the game feel pretty mid-weight and not too complex. So you might feel like you just want to kind of skip the whole rigmarole and get right to the meat of the game. And this might feel like some bells and whistles that don't really do that much. My number 4 point for the game is focused on the enemies and how they activate through the event deck. On the positive side, the enemies are varied and there's a lot of variety in where they come out, and they present a nice challenge and puzzle to the players as you try to kind of get past them and defeat some of them and avoid their special powers. But on the sometimes negative side, they're activated by these event cards, and in a cool touch, you can see what type of card is on top of the deck, so you know which type of enemy is going to activate or sometimes have more special effects going to resolve. But this is also, in my experience, a pretty swingy part of the game, because I've had missions where we didn't really kill very many enemies, we just happened to not get very many cards that activate them, and then on the other hand, if you get a ton of cards that activate the right kind of enemy and they keep on hitting you a whole bunch, it can become way harder. So there is some inherent swinginess to the difficulty. My number 3 point is, again, a mix, and that's focused on the scenario variety in the game. So this does touch a bit on the unlockable stuff, so I'm not going to go into specifics here, but you only have 4 maps in the game, 4 maps in this book, but there's more going on with the missions than that. Again, I won't tell you too much if you don't want spoilers. But basically, there are a lot of ways to play these same 4 maps and lots of different variants of how you go about them. There's also a lot of variety, as I already said, in how the enemies spawn and how your objectives fall out. So even playing the same map and even the same scenario, I found a lot of fun stuff to look into. The one big negative for me, besides the limitation of 4 maps, is that, again, being general, when you unlock some stuff and when you start being able to modularly mix and match things, not everything is as hard or easy as other things. So you're sometimes going to get combinations of things that are very difficult and combinations of things that are pretty easy, and the game doesn't really walk you through that. It's just kind of trial and error. For my number 2 point, I'm looking at the Crisis and Event system, and this is a full pro for my taste. So as I mentioned in the overview, you'll be playing cards into these different columns that take the different actions, but whenever at the end of a turn a column has 5 or more points total in the cards in it, then you'll potentially resolve a crisis, which varies from mission to mission, and also activate those event cards. And I did say earlier that the event cards themselves are a bit swingy, but I love the tactical nature of this system, because it becomes incredibly important cooperatively for players to consider which actions they're taking, to try to spread out their actions a bit, to intelligently not overstack an action so that, like, on another player's turn, they have to take that action and things go terribly for you. This might be a bit more tactical and numerical than some people just wanting a fun Star Wars adventure game would prefer, but for me and my sort of puzzly mind, I think it's wonderful and really adds a lot more to the cooperation and strategy of the play. And my number 1 point connects right to that last one, and it's also a pro for my taste, and that is the actual action play of the game and the variety in the characters. So as I mentioned, each character has a bunch of unique cards that feel fun thematically. They also tend to have sort of combos and mechanics that are inherent in their deck. And then while it's a bit of a combination of all my other points, the actual play of your cards, like when do you want to move and how do you want to move and when do you want to use intel to examine these tokens so you don't accidentally reveal some enemy ambush, and how do you want to plan to defend yourself against enemy attacks. I think it's all great, and again, a very tactical, engaging experience, both cooperatively or solo, that really does change from play to play, even when you're on the exact same map doing the exact same thing. So overall, if you're looking for a fun adventure game with great tactical options and a lot of variety in the characters, Mandalorian might be for you. But on the other hand, if you're looking for a game with a lot of narrative or a strong story and don't want to think through card numbers and effects as much, you might not like this one. And also, if you want tons of variety in the maps, to definitely reuse the same 4 in a lot of different ways, but consistently. And if you want to see the game in action, I had both a non-spoiler basic playthrough and a more advanced playthrough in a recent video. Thanks for watching, everybody. Good gaming, and I'll see you at the next stop.